All right, let's use the laser cutter to solve a real problem. Look at this drawer. Every time I open the drawer, everything in it slides around. I want to get some divider boxes in here so that there's no more room for sliding around. I want to take up all the space I've got, and so I need those boxes to be a precise size. And the laser cutter and a box generator is a lovely and easy way to solve this problem. So open up a web browser and search for laser cut box generator and find your way to this one or something like it. And then click on the boxes with dividers to set one up. And then as you're confronted with the parameters for this box, start to think about which drawer you're going to organize and find your way to the drawer and measure it. This could be in your room or your house, somewhere where you've got a drawer. And keep in mind that you're trying to measure the outside diameter of this box, the widest it's going to be. And you need to make sure that that's going to fit. And it's a good idea to leave a little bit of room so that as you slide it in, it doesn't bind up in the drawer. Make your box about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the space you've got, and it will fit. Now, my space was 7.5 inches by 9 3/4 of an inch, but I'm actually going to fill that space with 3 separate boxes rather than one box with dividers. So mine's going to be 7.5 by 3 inches, and my drawers are shallow, so they're only going to be 1.5 inches in height. We're going to cut our box out of 1/8 inch material, so the thickness is correct, and the dividers are going to be 1 and 1, just one simple box. And the finger size, the size of the little bumps that tie each edge together, don't really need to be adjusted, but just for fun, let's set them to 0.25. Then click Download Box Plans, disable the panel labels, we don't need to see those, and set your line formatting to be black, 6 zeros after the hashtag, and then click Download SVG. Good, open up this SVG pattern of your box in Illustrator and select all the pieces and copy them, and then paste them into a new file that is the full size of our laser cutter bed so that you can see where you're laying out your cut lines. Then switch to the direct selection tool so that you can select one piece of the box at a time. Then hold down the Option key on a Mac, Alt on a Windows PC, and then left click on this upper left vertex right here and drag that piece of the box to the upper left of your laser cutter bed until it snaps right into the corner. And then drag the other pieces off in that direction until they all fit on a 12 inch by 12 inch square of raw material. You want to pack your shapes in as tightly as you can to minimize waste. And look at this, you can pack them right up against each other. There is not enough precision demanded from this application for that to be a problem. And if you can't see your ruler in Illustrator, just go View, Rulers, Show Ruler, or hit Command R. And look at that, I'm finding that I've got enough room for not just one 3-inch box, but 2. So I'm going to select all and copy and paste and reposition 4 more pieces for a second box out of one piece of material. And then I'm going to use digital calipers to confirm that it really is 1/8 of an inch. And yes, this is measuring at less than 1/8 of an inch, but it is close enough to be considered a 1/8 piece of stock. So load it into the laser cutter, tight to the back left, and cut it just like you did your practice exercise. The line widths should be 0.001, and there should be no fill. And I want a label etched into the bottom, so I'm going to choose the Type tool and click on the bottom and change the size of my font to be nice and big and label it. And I'm just going to leave this as standard Illustrator text, knowing that the laser cutter is going to etch this feature instead of cutting it straight through and out the bottom of my box. Then go to the Makerspace website and find the approved material settings so that you can set the Epilogue laser cutter to be appropriate for plywood at 1/8 of an inch. And that's reading as 18% speed and 100% power. I'm going to set this slightly lower at about 16% speed just in case the lens of the laser cutter is not perfectly clean. I would rather ensure that I cut all the way through than that I fret too much about over-darkening the cut line itself. Great. Now, please do not launch the cut until you have done a test. You're about to cut a 12 inch by 12 inch piece of material. That's 144 times bigger than what you did as warm-up. So don't destroy it unnecessarily by launching your job only to realize that there is still an error in your setup. Your test needs to be a whole new file with just a single 1 inch by 1 inch square placed test at the 1111 coordinate. This will cut off the bottom right corner right here, a piece of material that we can afford to test on because it's not part of our actual box. And look at this, when I did the test at 18% speed, the lens was a bit dirty and the laser did not cut all the way through. I had to pop the piece out with my finger. That was the clue that I needed to slow the speed down to 16%. I wouldn't have had that information without a test, and I would have cut my whole box and none of the pieces would have come out easily. Okay, so if 16% is supposedly the magic number, am I ready to go? Well, no. I'm going to do another test at 16% because check this out. When I pull out my material at that speed, my part falls away without effort. Until you see that on the day of your cut, don't proceed with big cuts. It's just not worth the time or the wasted material. Now that I know that I'm cutting through at a percentage that works today, I'm going to run my job. I've got my fume extractor on, I've got the air compressor going, everything is going swimmingly. This is how you want to approach bigger material and longer jobs. And this job wasn't that long, it only took 10 minutes. But even still, it's worth the time to do a test cut before the big cut. Excellent. When you're done, every cut you do is going to have waste, and you've got to deal with it in an appropriate way. Check out the waste I've got. It's big enough that I'm not just going to throw it away. Get it back on the laser cutter and line it up with one of your inch marks. Here I'm lining it up with the 8-inch mark and seeing that I've got 4 clean inches across and 4 clean inches down. That's what I'm going to salvage. So head on back to Illustrator and make a square that is at 8 inches on X and 0 on Y, 2 inches wide and 2 inches high. Set it up to cut with a width of 0.001 and no fill, and then come on up to the Object menu and down to Repeat Grid. Now you'll get 2 handles to make as many 2-inch squares as you want. But they're all going to have a space between them, so let's set the spacing between iterations to 0. I had room for 4 inches of salvageable material, so I'm going to slide these handles until I have 4 of those 2-inch squares. Please take the time to salvage your material or decide that you don't have time and you're willing to just throw it in the trash. Please don't put it back in the cabinet of new material because it just means that I've got to then fish it out and throw it in the trash. Great, those 2x2-inch squares make awesome testing material for someone else, so put them back up in our free material rack with the other 2x2s. All right, the glue up is a piece of cake. Do a dry fit, laying all the pieces together, and then dab a little bit of wood glue around the edges. Assemble the pieces, and with a rubber band or some tape it together. Use a wet paper towel to wipe up all the glue before it dries, and you'll be done. Give it an hour for the glue to set, and then try slotting it into the drawer. Congratulations, you have just made your first simple box on the laser cutter.